It started like any ordinary day. Birds sang in the morning, people rushed to work. Children laughed on playgrounds, and the sun rose calmly over Earth. No one could imagine that the sky itself would soon become a battlefield, and that humanity would face a force so vast, so merciless, that the world would feel smaller than a grain of sand. Then it appeared. At first it was just a dark speck on the horizon. People thought it was a meteor or a strange storm. But within minutes the speck grew into something enormous. Entire cities stopped in mid-step, people raising their eyes, mouths open in disbelief. Across the globe, from Tokyo to New York, from Cairo to Rio, the same terrifying scene unfolded. Above the Earth, massive ships drifted silently, hundreds of them stretching across the sky as far as the eye could see. The Imperial fleet had arrived. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever built or imagined. Sleek black hulls reflected the sunlight, glowing faintly with strange blue energy lines. They moved with perfect coordination, as if the entire armada shared a single mind, and they were silent. No engines roared, no alarms warned. They just hung in the sky, and humanity realized, with a chill running down every spine, that these visitors were not friendly. World leaders called emergency meetings, military commanders scrambled their fleets, and scientists tried to understand the incomprehensible technology hovering above their cities. Humanity had survived wars, plagues, and disasters before, but this was a threat beyond imagination. From the largest city to the smallest village, people looked up, fear and awe mixing in their eyes. Families held each other tightly, children cried, and older generations whispered stories of wars they had survived, wondering if they would see another sunrise. In the streets, panic spread as people tried to flee, but nowhere was safe. The alien leader Vacor appeared on every communication channel simultaneously. His image was sharp, metallic, and inhuman, with eyes that seemed to pierce through the soul. His voice was cold, loud, and perfectly clear. "Humans," he said, "your world is weak. Your species is primitive. You will submit, or you will be destroyed." Even as the words echoed across Earth, humans could feel a strange, unspoken challenge in them. The aliens had underestimated something essential: the heart of humanity. As the first energy beams began to strike cities, panic turned into despair. Buildings crumbled like sandcastles, fires spread across streets, and the sky became a burning storm of light. Humans were running, hiding, screaming, but still, a spark of defiance ignited quietly in their hearts. In underground bunkers, command centers, and laboratories, people whispered to each other, "We can't give up. We have to fight." Ordinary men and women, scientists and soldiers, engineers and pilots all felt it. A deep, almost instinctive courage that had never been tested on this scale. Humanity had been cornered, and in the corner, humans did what they did best. They prepared to fight against all odds. Even as fear clawed at their minds, there was a strange pride swelling. Humanity had survived centuries of hardship. They had built civilizations, conquered disease, and endured catastrophes that would have destroyed weaker species. Now, faced with an enemy that seemed unbeatable, that very resilience, the stubborn will to survive, began to shine. From every corner of the Earth, people stared at the shadowy fleet and felt a singular thought spread silently through millions of hearts. We will not bow. We will not flee. We will fight. And somewhere deep in the heart of the largest city, a young boy looked up at the black shapes against the sunlit sky and whispered, "We are humans. We always survive." The Imperial fleet did not know it yet, but humanity had already begun the first step toward defiance. A storm was coming. A storm fueled by courage, ingenuity, and unbreakable will. The world would soon witness a force that no alien empire had ever imagined, and the shadow in the sky, so vast and terrifying, was about to meet something far more dangerous: the heart of Earth's people. The sky above Earth was filled with fire. Alien energy beams carved through cities, leaving trails of smoke and chaos. Streets that had once held laughter now held terror. People ran without direction, tripping over rubble, screaming for loved ones. Planes tried to intercept the massive ships, but they were like flies against a hurricane. Every human weapon that fired felt tiny and powerless. The Imperial fleet moved like gods, unstoppable, invincible, or so it seemed. But humanity had one thing the aliens could not understand: resilience. In underground bunkers, hidden research labs, and military command centers, humans worked frantically. Engineers adjusted satellites. Scientists activated experimental weapons. and soldiers trained for a fight that felt impossible. Every nation on Earth, despite borders and disagreements, shared one goal: survival. On the coastlines, massive naval cannons fired at the alien ships, while fighter jets screamed into the sky, dodging beams of energy. But nothing seemed to stop the alien onslaught. The Imperial fleet hovered above cities like dark titans, watching humanity struggle. Vacor, the alien commander, smiled, confident that the humans would break in minutes. Yet humanity had a plan, even if it was a desperate, dangerous plan. Deep in space and orbit, humans had secretly developed experimental satellites equipped with kinetic projectiles, electromagnetic disruptors, and energy pulses. The technology was crude, unfinished, and untested, but humans had no choice. They activated the systems simultaneously, launching humanity's hope across the sky. The first strike hit an alien ship near New York. A flash of light, and the massive vessel shuddered violently. Its weapons went dark. Crew inside screamed in alarm as their systems failed. Then another ship near Tokyo followed, and another near Paris. The Imperial fleet, confident in their perfection, suddenly faced the impossible. Humans could coordinate attacks across the entire planet in seconds. Vacor's fleet attempted to regroup. Orders shouted, ships maneuvered, but the humans were everywhere at once. It was not technology alone that defeated them. It was creativity, courage, and unity. Humans adapted faster than the aliens expected. Satellites redirected energy pulses. Fighter jets jammed sensors, and drones swarmed alien vessels in deadly clouds. On the ground, ordinary people watched with wide eyes as the impossible happened. Children clung to parents, seeing lights in the sky that made no sense. Civilians cheered, tears streaming down faces as one alien ship exploded after another. Humanity's ingenuity had turned the tide, and hope began to replace fear. Even as the cities burned and smoke rose into the sky, a quiet pride spread. Humanity realized they were not helpless. They had faced extinction before in ways that were smaller and less visible and survived. Now the entire species fought together, a single unstoppable force of determination. Vacor's voice boomed through communications again, colder this time. Humans, and how is this possible? You are insignificant. You cannot defeat us. But the humans did not hear the voice in fear, they heard it as a challenge. They would not bow. They would not surrender. From space to Earth's surface, the battle raged, but the humans had discovered something powerful. The more the aliens attacked, the stronger humanity became. Every failed strike taught them something new. Every destruction inspired ingenuity. The Imperial fleet had underestimated the very thing that made humans dangerous: their will to survive, their ability to learn, and their refusal to give in. And in one hidden control room, a young engineer wiped sweat from his brow and whispered, "We can do this. We will survive. We will win." That single thought spread like wildfire across every human mind. The fight was only beginning, but humanity had made one thing clear: the Imperial fleet would not conquer Earth. Not today. Not ever. The battle above Earth had become a storm of light and fire. Alien ships, once untouchable giants, now shuddered under the coordinated attacks of humanity. Satellites fired with pinpoint precision. Kinetic projectiles ripped through hulls, and energy pulses scrambled alien systems. Explosions lit up the sky brighter than the sun at noon, and debris rained down over oceans and cities. For the first time, Vacor felt doubt. His fleet, the pride of the Empire, was faltering. One by one, their ships began to lose power, systems failing as human ingenuity exposed their vulnerabilities. The aliens had assumed the humans would panic, crumble, and surrender. But humanity had responded with something they could not calculate: unity. Across Earth, people watched the sky in awe and terror. Streets filled with cheering civilians, firemen, and soldiers alike, all witnessing the impossible. Children pressed their faces against windows while parents held them tight, whispering reassurances they themselves barely believed. Yet even in fear, pride blossomed. Humans were alive, fighting together, proving that even the darkest night could not snuff out the light of courage. From orbital command centers, human leaders coordinated every strike, every movement. Communications flowed instantly, soldiers and scientists working as one. It was chaotic, dangerous, and thrilling, and it worked. Alien ships tried to maneuver, to regroup, but every plan was anticipated. Every action countered. Humanity was no longer reactive. They were taking the fight to the invaders. Vacor's voice, once full of arrogance, now carried strain. How can these humans resist us? He growled, his metallic features twisting with frustration. The aliens had never faced such unpredictable opponents. They had conquered red worlds that had surrendered at the first sight of their fleet. Yet here, on a small blue planet, humans fought with unmatched tenacity. In New York, a fighter pilot screamed as her jet dodged a beam, then launched a missile that struck an alien cruiser squarely in the center. The explosion tore the ship apart, sending fragments hurtling into space. Cheers erupted from soldiers watching on screens, and the pilot felt a surge of hope that electrified her veins. Humanity was winning. Meanwhile, on the ground, scientists activated hidden defense systems. Massive energy cannons hidden deep underground fired in synchrony, sending pulses that disabled alien ships' shields. Engineers had rigged satellites to act like a web, targeting ships from every angle. Every strike, every plan, was proof that humans could adapt faster than their enemies. In orbit, Vacor realized the terrifying truth. Humans were not just surviving, they were thriving under pressure. Their fear had become determination. Their desperation had become creativity. The more the Imperial fleet attacked, the more humans learned, evolved, and countered. The turning tide was undeniable. Alien ships fell like rain, streaking across the sky in fire and metal. Humanity's satellites, drones, and fighters worked together flawlessly, creating a symphony of destruction no alien technology could match. Vacor's fleet, once a perfect machine of war, now resembled a shattered mirror, reflecting the stubborn defiance of a species they had dismissed as insignificant. On Earth, people celebrated small victories while mourning the losses. Cities were burning, millions had died, and yet the spirit of humanity blazed brighter than any explosion. Soldiers embraced, scientists laughed through tears, and children watched the sky, imagining a future where they could live without fear. Somewhere deep in the ruins of a city, an old man whispered to himself, "They think they can destroy us, but they do not understand who we are." His words, carried by the wind, seemed to echo across the planet. Humans were not just fighting for survival. They were reminding the universe of their strength, their courage, and their unbreakable will. And in the heart of the Imperial fleet, Vacor realized a horrifying truth. They had underestimated humanity, and that mistake could cost the Empire everything. The turning tide was not just a battle, it was a revelation. Earth was alive, fierce, and unstoppable. The storm of war had begun to favor humanity, and for the first time, the aliens understood fear. The sky above Earth burned with fire, yet this fire was different now. It was no longer a symbol of fear. It was a testament to humanity's courage. Alien ships that had once seemed invincible were falling like fragile stones. Their energy beams fizzled against human defenses, their shields cracked, and their formations shattered under relentless strikes from Earth's unified forces. Vacor's flagship, massive and gleaming with alien technology, trembled under the coordinated assault. For the first time, the alien commander felt something he had never experienced: fear. Every human satellite strike, every pulse of energy, every strategic maneuver tore into the pride of his fleet. He had expected obedience or chaos, surrender or destruction, but humanity had given him neither. On Earth, people watched the sky with disbelief and awe. Streets were filled with cheering civilians, soldiers, and firefighters alike. They had expected defeat, yet here they were witnessing the impossible. Their planet standing unbroken against the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. Children clutched their parents' hands tightly, their eyes wide with wonder, while elders whispered stories of resilience, marveling at the courage of a species that refused to be conquered. In orbital command centers, human leaders coordinated every strike with precision. Engineers monitored energy flows, scientists calculated trajectories, and pilots raced through the atmosphere, dodging alien fire. Every move worked in perfect harmony, turning chaos into triumph. Humanity had discovered its greatest weapon: unity. Vacor's voice crackled over communications again, now strained and trembling. "Humans, how is this possible? You are insignificant." Yet even as he shouted, his ships were failing. One by one, cruisers disintegrated in flashes of brilliant light. The Imperial fleet, The pride of 1,000 conquered worlds was crumbling before a species they had underestimated. Explosions lit the night sky like a second sun. Massive shards of alien ships fell into oceans and forests, sending waves of debris across continents. Humanity had lost millions, cities were in ruins, but the spirit of people burned brighter than any star. Ordinary men and women who had once felt powerless now saw themselves as legends in the making. Every explosion of victory was a heartbeat of hope. From New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney, people celebrated small victories while mourning their losses. Firefighters carried survivors from rubble, soldiers protected fleeing civilians, and neighbors comforted neighbors. The human heart, full of empathy, courage, and stubborn determination, had proven stronger than alien technology. Vacor's flagship, now heavily damaged, hovered above Earth like a wounded giant. The alien commander realized the truth. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were relentless, creative, and united. Their fear had turned into strength, and their desperation had become strategy. Earth had defended itself not with sheer power alone, but with a combination of ingenuity, courage, and heart. Then, in a moment of quiet horror, Vacor gave the order to retreat. His fleet, battered and broken, began to scatter, fleeing the planet they had intended to conquer. Humanity's defenses remained vigilant, ensuring that no ship escaped unscathed. The aliens had come expecting a quick victory, yet they now faced humiliation and defeat. On the ground, people cheered, cried, and hugged one another. Streets were covered in smoke and debris, but in the hearts of every human being a new feeling blossomed: pride. They had stared death in the face and refused to bow. They had survived when all odds were against them. And they had won. In the sky, the fires of battle began to dim, replaced by the soft glow of dawn. Humanity looked up at the stars, knowing that their place in the universe had changed forever. They were no longer a small, insignificant planet. They were survivors, warriors, legends. And somewhere across the galaxy, Vacor carried the bitter knowledge of defeat. Humanity had shown the universe a truth that no empire could ignore. Underestimate them at your peril. Earth had survived. Humanity had triumphed, and the heart of a small blue planet had burned brighter than the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. The battle was over, but Earth was not the same. Cities lay in ruins. Smoke rose into the sky, and oceans carried the scars of fire and debris. Roads were cracked, bridges collapsed, and homes were reduced to rubble. Millions of lives had been lost in the first wave of the Imperial fleet's attack. Yet amidst the destruction, a single truth resonated across the planet. Humanity had survived. Across the globe, people began the slow, difficult task of rebuilding. Engineers and architects worked tirelessly to repair shattered cities. Farmers planted seeds in burned fields, determined that life would grow again. Scientists studied the remnants of alien technology. Curious and fearless, knowing that knowledge gained from the enemy could make humanity stronger than ever before. In every corner of Earth, a new energy filled the air. It was hope, determination, and pride all woven together. Humanity had faced annihilation, yet it had refused to bow. This victory had not been easy, and the losses were heavy. But it had taught humans something profound. No matter how powerful the enemy, their spirit could not be broken. Leaders from every nation came together to coordinate the reconstruction and defense of the planet. Borders became less important as the shared memory of survival united the world. Every voice, every hand, every mind was part of a single mission: to make Earth stronger, smarter, and ready for whatever the universe would throw at them next. In secret research labs, scientists tinkered with alien technology, learning its secrets and adapting it for human use. Satellites were upgraded, energy shields tested, and new weapons created. Humanity realized that their ingenuity, creativity, and courage were far more dangerous than brute strength. Vacor and his empire had underestimated them, but now humans were preparing for the day they might return. On the streets, people celebrated small victories. A rebuilt school here, a repaired hospital there, a child's laughter in a playground. Each moment was a reminder that life could continue. Humanity had suffered immense loss, yet it refused to be defined by death and destruction. They were defined by resilience, by love, and by the unyielding will to survive. Children listened to stories of the battle, wide-eyed with wonder. "We beat them?" a young girl asked, clutching her mother's hand. Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. "Yes," she said. "Humans fought and we won." Never forget that. In classrooms, museums, and homes, humanity began to record the story of the day the universe had learned to fear them. Not because of weapons alone, but because of courage, unity, and heart. Soldiers trained harder than ever, ready to protect the planet. Civilians volunteered to help rebuild, to share skills, to make communities stronger. Every human being understood something vital. Survival was not just about weapons or technology. It was about connection, purpose, and belief in something greater than oneself. Vekor, back in the distant reaches of space, could not stop thinking about the humans. He realized that their victory was not a fluke. It was a result of a strength no empire could measure. Humans had fought with fear in their hearts and hope in their souls, and that combination had made them unstoppable. On Earth, as the sun rose over scarred cities, humanity looked toward the future. They were battered but unbroken, wounded but wiser. They had survived annihilation and learned the power of unity and courage. And in that quiet dawn, every human felt a promise stirred deep within. The universe would know the strength of Earth's people. Humanity had endured. Humanity had triumphed. And humanity would rise again, stronger than ever, ready for whatever darkness awaited among the stars. The months after the invasion were filled with rebuilding, but Earth was no longer the same planet. The scars of battle stretched across continents, and the memory of fire in the sky was burned into every human heart. Yet from those ashes rose something new, confidence. Humanity had faced the most powerful fleet in the galaxy and won, but the leaders of Earth knew this was not the end. The Empire would return, and next time they might come with even greater strength. Humanity could not remain silent. They had to show the galaxy what had happened here, to make it clear that Earth was no longer a quiet, forgotten world. In a global council, leaders, scientists, and soldiers debated for hours. At last they agreed. A single message would be sent, carried by every transmitter, every satellite, every communication array on the planet. It would echo through space, traveling faster than light, reaching distant worlds, allies and enemies alike. The world held its breath as the message began. Simple, powerful, and unshakable, it spoke not with arrogance but with certainty. We are humans. We do not bow. We do not flee. We survive. We fight, we endure. To those who threaten us, know this: we will stand together. And if you come for Earth again, you will face the same fate as the Imperial fleet. The transmission lasted only moments, but its impact was immediate. Across Earth, people cheered, tears in their eyes. It was not just a warning to the stars, it was a promise to themselves. They were no longer afraid of what lay beyond the sky. The stars were not just for empires and conquerors, they belonged to humanity too. In distant corners of the galaxy, the message arrived. Some species trembled, realizing that the Empire, which had once seemed untouchable, had been defeated by a world they had ignored. Others whispered in awe, wondering if the humans could be allies. And deep within the Imperial systems, Vekor himself listened to the words with silent rage and growing dread. The alien commander had underestimated Earth once, but he would never forget the lesson. The humans had exposed the weakness of the Empire, not in weapons but in spirit. They were unpredictable, unbreakable, and united. For the first time in his life, Vekor understood that the Empire had an enemy it could not easily conquer. On Earth, the people continued their work. Children studied not just their own history but the story of the battle. Artists painted the skies filled with fire. Musicians wrote songs of courage, and writers told tales of defiance. Humanity's culture grew richer, its pride stronger. Even in grief for those they had lost, humans found a strange joy in knowing their sacrifice had not been in vain. Soldiers stood taller, scientists worked harder, and ordinary people walked with pride. The fear of insignificance was gone. Humanity knew its place in the universe now, not as prey, not as slaves, but as equals to any empire, and perhaps one day, as leaders among the stars. As the sun set over a recovering Earth, an old woman stood on her balcony looking up at the glowing night sky. She whispered softly, "Let them hear us. Let them know we are here." And somewhere far beyond, countless civilizations heard her words carried within humanity's message. The galaxy had been warned. The age of silence was over. Humanity had found its voice, and it was louder, stronger, and fiercer than anyone could have imagined. Years passed after the battle, but the memory never faded. Children grew up hearing stories of the day the sky burned, when alien ships came like gods and left as ashes. Monuments were built across cities, not only to honor the fallen, but to remind future generations of what humanity had proven, that they were stronger than fear, stronger than despair, stronger than empires. The scars of war still remained. Some cities were never rebuilt to what they once were. Graves stretched across fields where families still came to weep. Yet even in sorrow there was pride. Every loss carried meaning. Every tear carried strength. Humanity had been tested, and though it bled, it did not break. In universities, scientists worked tirelessly, using knowledge gathered from alien wreckage to advance medicine, energy, and travel. Engineers constructed ships that could leave the solar system, their designs inspired by both human creativity and alien technology. For the first time in history, humanity truly looked beyond Earth, not with fear, but with purpose. In training academies, soldiers prepared not just to defend Earth, but to protect its future. They knew the Empire might one day return, but this time humanity would not simply wait. This time they would be ready. Young recruits swore oaths to the stars, their voices filled with fire. We will defend Earth. We will defend humanity. Always. The galaxy had begun to whisper about Earth. Some called it the death world that could not be conquered. Others called it the cradle of warriors. But to humans themselves it was simply home, and they had learned that home was worth any sacrifice. On the other side of space, Vacor still carried the shame of defeat. His once proud fleet had been reduced to memory, and whispers of his failure spread even within his empire. Yet behind his anger was something new, caution. For he knew the humans would not stop. They would grow. They would rise. And one day, they might come not as defenders, but as challengers to the Empire itself. Back on Earth, ordinary people lived their lives with newfound pride. Farmers worked their fields. Children studied under new stars. Families rebuilt homes with stronger walls. But whenever they looked to the night sky, they no longer saw emptiness. They saw possibility. The stars no longer belonged only to empires and conquerors. They belonged to them as well. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a young boy stood with his grandfather on a hill outside a quiet town. The boy asked, "Grandfather, do you think they will come back?" The old man looked up at the sky where stars glimmered like a million promises. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and smiled softly. "Maybe they will. But next time we won't just wait. Next time we will meet them out there." The boy's eyes widened with wonder. "Out there, in the stars?" "Yes," the old man whispered. "That is our future." And as the night grew darker, countless others across the planet were having the same thought. Humanity had survived. Humanity had endured. And now humanity would rise. The dawn of a new age had begun. An age where Earth was no longer a quiet, fragile world, hiding in the shadows of the galaxy. It was a world that had stood against the strongest empire and won. It was a world that had discovered its strength, its voice, and its destiny. And as the stars shone brighter than ever, the universe realized the truth. The day the Imperial fleet invaded Earth was not the end, it was the beginning. The beginning of humanity's story among the stars. Humanity had fought. Humanity had triumphed. Humanity would rise,